There. So I'm recording. This lessons we're going to do watercolor and we're going to do a bird of paradise. But I wanted to show last week's. I kind of finished it up, and
Yeah, yours looks great.
Beautiful.
and I did this more dry, so it was a little streaky. And there's Pam. There she is. We'll go here and we'll admit. And Pam is joining us. It says joining. It says joining. It says joining. All right, Pam. Now you are connected, or you're connecting. Give me a second. Let me see if she connects. There's Pam. Can you hear us, Pam?
I can hear you just fine.
You don't have a camera, though.
Oh, I don't? I should.
Okay, then you have to turn on your camera. It's in the lower left corner. It says video. Start video. If you want to be viewed.
Nah, I don't see what you're saying.
Can you see where my mouse is moving?
No?
Okay, in the lower left corner, there's a microphone that says mute, and you don't want to hit that. But then there's video, and you click on it and say start video.
I don't have any of that stuff you're
There
talking
should be
about.
a toolbar somewhere, either at the top.
Oh, here, I have to, okay, here it is. All
Sometimes
right,
you have to hover over it.
that's exactly right. Yeah, I found it.
Okay, and then if you turn on video, it should show us for us. I don't think I can turn on your video.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to turn it on because it's showing the wrong direction and it doesn't look good.
Okay, that's fine, leave it. All right, we're gonna start the lesson today. Last time we painted this bug, and I came in and did some dryer brush here to do streaks. The same with the bottom. I was trying to get that feeling of motion that the drawing had. I also, once I came in with a very small brush, I had some gel pens, some red ones, which I came in and darkened certain areas to give it a little more highlight. And I want to come in with the silver gel pen and do the chrome, but I don't have one. I have to order one. So you can always do that. You can mix media, and the gel pens will write on the watercolor. But then if you want a watercolor over that, probably might pick up the gel pen. So you want to do that at the end. All right, so that's the bug drawing we did last time, which I sent you the video. So today we have this watercolor of this bird of paradise. Unfortunately, I gave Pam the original drawing, so I'm going to have to go here and share screen to find the thing that I did. And so I think I'm going to have to minimize this just for a second. I can't. Okay, I can move it over. And what I'll do is I'll go and I'll open it up, and I can switch to it every once in a while to show you. And so here I'll close that, and then I'll go here to my computer and open the image. Now that image is not a real picture of a bird of paradise. I had like 6 pictures of birds of paradise, which in Photoshop, I came and switched them around to make a composition, even using some of the bend tools to bend the birds of paradise a little bit better to interlock them. I always like that interlocking, looks like boomerangs. And so this is under drawing class. Just a second, I'll get to there. And so I made this composition. So composition makes a big difference. You don't want to just pick a picture and paint it. You want to find one with a good composition. If you have to cut it up with a pair of scissors and get a better composition, you certainly can. And so this should be under drawing lessons, and then the bird of paradise small. I'll open that up, and you're not seeing that, so I have to go back to Zoom. And then with Zoom, I need to say share the photo. And so there's the bird of paradise. So I thought this was nice having it interlocking. Now there's a little lump here, which I didn't draw. And in the drawing, I looked at where the color changes were. where the highlights were. There's a little shine right there. There's some shine here. There's a shine on this. So I kind of circled those and oops, went back. Where the shadows are, I drew the shadows around them too. I also, on my drawing, I added an extra little edge on each one of these leaves to give it a three-dimensionality, which you don't have to have or you can have. So I'm going to stop this share here, and we're going to go back, and you can see mine. And there it is. And mine's upside down. I'll turn it right side up for you, but upside down for me. And what I would do is probably go to the lighter colors first. And so we could do the greens first if we wanted to, but I'm going to do the oranges on these leaves. And those oranges, they have kind of lines where the veins in those go. So if you leave little brush strokes as you do those, that'll be okay. So I have some orange watercolor here on my board already, which I think I can reconstitute by rubbing on it. If not, I can add more orange. And you get that orange with yellow and red, kind of your basic color combinations. The primary colors, yellow and red, will make an orange. Let me put a little more red down here. And maybe get a little yellow just so I get some fresh ones. But I could keep using the water and it would reconstitute these. So if you have a watercolor palette, you can still paint even if you don't have the paints. So I'll put some yellow. With the darker colors, you need just a very little bit of color. Now, if you have a straight orange tube or an orange block that you can use, you don't have to mix your orange. But I'm just mixing it, making a fairly medium bright orange. And I'm going to make it just a little wet. And I'll come in and we'll paint those orange leaves. And I'm going from the outside first and going over them. And you see, if you leave a little white right in the center, it gives you a little highlight that makes it look more like it's a leaf that's bent or curved. So I just left a little white in the middle. I'm using a small rounded brush. Same with this other one. And I drew where the highlight was. So I'm going to leave that white. But if I leave a little more white in the middle, that's okay. And if I'm going over the lines, I accidentally did that. I'm just going to make this leaf just a little bigger and I'll erase the gray. So if you make a mistake, you can cover up for it by making the leaf a little bigger or shaping it a little bit different. Probably nobody's gonna know. And you can have these happy bird of paradise leaves. Now these two here, and here are purpley blue, are blue in the picture. But purple would be a complementary color to the orange, which is an opposite color, makes things vibrate. We see this in Christmas where it's red and green. They're on the opposite sides of the color wheel, and that makes it more vibrant. Van Gogh used to use really vibrant colors like purple and orange next to each other, or swatches of yellow and blue, which are opposite, red and green, and it made it much more exciting. Your eye makes it vibrate more since they're so far apart in the color range. It makes it more exciting. Now, another thing with drawing is this is a vertical, or what they call a portrait drawing. Even though it's not a person, it's in the portrait mode. Landscape is horizontal, portrait is vertical. And the portraits are a little more exciting because vertical things are more exciting to our eye. Horizontal things like the horizon at the beach are more relaxing. So diagonal things are very exciting because they look like they're going to fall over or whatever. So here I'm going to switch quickly to look at the end of these leaves. I think it's just lighter at the ends, but I don't remember. Normally I have the drawing with me, but I gave it to Pam. I guess I could print it out again real quick, but let me go here and share again and go and just look at it real quick. Yeah, there's little highlights here, and down here, there's a little darker color. That's where the leaf curls over. You don't have to do that, but you could, and it makes it look a little more realistic. Let me do this really quick. And I'll just go like this. That's on. We'll click the print button. We'll say print. And then I won't have to keep referring back to this. And so I'm going to stop the share. So that's printing out for me. So these leaves, this was a little darker orange here. So if you go over it once, and then you go over it again once it dries, it can be darker. Or you could dip your brush in a little more of the orangish red and make it a little oranger. And then go here and fill this one in. Again, if you do leave just a little bit of a highlight in the middle, it's okay. And if you go over the edge, you can come and just make it just a little bigger. We want to try to keep clean lines. Now, this one, in Photoshop, I did put a blue gradient background, and you could paint that later on. But I think on the white, if you do this orange and just leave the background, the paper color, it's fine, and it'll look very nice. So I printed that out, so I don't have to keep switching. We can look at it here. And so we've got the oranges painted. There is a little bit of a yellowish in here on this stalk. There's a little bit of a white down in there. It could be a very light yellow. So if we do just a little bit of the yellow, we could even do a wash of the yellow on these leaves. See, this edge here has some yellow in it, and the stalks have a little yellow right down the middle and underneath. We could do a very light yellow to begin with. And again, with watercolor, you want to make sure you do things lightly, because you can always go darker, but harder to go lighter. Now you can use a sponge or a towel to dab if you do, or again, you could come in and wash it all off in the sink and let it dry and come back and paint again. I'm going to add a little white to my yellow, and a little bit of the yellow goes a long way when you got the white. I'm trying to find a clean place on my palette, or else it's going to pick up some of the blues, but sometimes picking up some of the other colors doesn't really hurt. And I'll go with a really light yellow. And I'm just going to go in those areas where we have the white here. That could be a little bluish white, but I'm going to go with a little yellowish white, yellowish white, yellowish white here, 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 down the middle of the stalks on this lighter side of both leaves. And then we can cover it up with a different color later on. So this one, I'm going to use a medium-sized round brush for going down the stalks, but let me get that whitish yellow, and I'll go in here just a little bit. If it's a little damp, you can blot your brush elsewhere. And then here, where I did the highlight, I'm going to go with a little yellow there. This one doesn't have the yellow as much on it, but I'm going to put something. Why do you think I would put some yellow on this one, even though it doesn't have it in my picture?
To balance it?
Balances out. The yellow's here, the yellow's here. Even the yellow down here in the leaves will balance it out. When I do paintings, I like to do a triangle of colors. So if there's yellow here and yellow there, some yellow down in the stalk would give me a triangle, and balances out and lets you make your eye move around. Let your eye have some fun looking for the yellow. Not like where's Waldo, in this case, be where's yellow. But in this case, this inner one here, I'm going to go with a light yellow wash. And notice I told you I did this edge here. This could be a light yellow edge. That just gave the leaf some thickness. You don't have to have that. It wasn't in the picture, but you can do it. And then the other side of the leaf, especially at the tip, is a little yellow up here near the tip. And that balances out the yellows, and we're going to cover them up a little bit. Notice I'm wiping that off with my finger because I went over, and that's fine. So the center of the stalks, I'm going to go down with this light yellow. And you know, you can make different color choices. In the red part of this stem, there's not much yellow, but if I had a little yellow, it'd just make it a little orangier, and that would bring the oranges down. So I'm a big proponent of adding colors, even though they're not necessarily there. So down the center of this stalk, I drew a line where the shadow would be, but I'm going to do this light yellow all the way down the center of the stalk. Now, do I need to slow down?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will slow down. So I'm just going to do the other stalk, and then I'll just talk about things while you can catch up. How's Pamela doing?
I'm doing good. You told me to go light, and it's super hard to see it when it's too light.
Well, you go light enough that you can see it, but mine I did dark so you guys can see it. The problem with mine that are darker, it doesn't erase as well. And a lot of times you want to go back and erase these. Now, if these colors are very dramatic and strong, it may cover up the pencil. And sometimes the pencil looks nice, but in real life, things don't have outlines in most cases. Zebras, monarchs, they have outlines, but most things don't have outlines. So I want to erase these, and these lines are too dark to erase well. But if you did them fairly light, so maybe a medium light so you can see it. And if you can't see it, fake it. Decide, well, this is where the leaf should go. It's still going to be a nice painting.
That's true. Yeah, I missed a few lines, but it'll be okay.
That's all right. Yeah, you don't have all the lines. You can fake them back in later on and decide, yeah, I need a line here. So you can add lines. You can decide, I don't like that line at all. I'm not going to paint that. Why would I want to paint that? So we've got the oranges and a light yellow wash on this. And so we'll wait for a little while, let people get caught up. How's Holly doing?
I'm doing good. I'm
And I'll send you this video. So even Pam, if you need to catch up later, you certainly can, because I'll give you the video and you can just go with it. So I'm just going to take a little break here, and I think I'll have a drink of water.
Yay. It's good to hydrate.
It's very good for you. I had one friend who, they always said 8 glasses of water a day, and they always did 8 glasses of water. And then they came out and said, well, you really don't need 8 glasses of water a day. Depends upon your situation. And they were so mad. I'm doing that 8 glasses of water a day is still good for you.
What about me? I have to drink half my body weight in ounces of water a day.
Wow.
Well, that's her dietary plan to get rid of her diabetes, and it's working really, really well.
Very well, yeah.
They found things that she was allergic to, and they were causing the insulin, her cells to be insulin resistant. So if you avoid those foods and you drink a lot of water, it helps the cells to assimilate the insulin, and it helps you to be less diabetic, and you're not anymore.
I'm not, no.
Wow, that's fantastic, Pam. Good
Yeah.
for you.
It was a long program. She had to do like 6 months and
Yeah,
cut things out, and doing no wheat for her either.
yeah, I can't have wheat or any grains, actually. I'm allergic to grass. Well, all grains are grass. And who knew? You know, you don't put 2 and 2 together like that, but
Wow.
it makes
So-
a big difference.
Holly, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Should we go on to another color?
Yeah, I'm ready for another color.
Is Pam ready for another color?
Yes, I am definitely ready.
So I like the reds, and so I'm going to do the reds where the stock is a pinky red. And so you get a little red and a little white and come in there and do that stock area. And up in here, there's some red and there's some red here. So there's 1, 2, 3 balanced red. You could even put a little red in the leaves, though I don't think there's actually red in the leaves, but there's red here in the stock here, here, there, there. And you could even add a little red in these orangey leaves because they're red where they're in the shadow there. So that's what I'm going to do is get the white and just a touch of my red to make a very light pink. Again, I have the yellow in here, but if it goes in with the red and makes it a little orangey red pink, I think that's okay. Just a nice, good pinky color. And I'm getting my brush a little dry because I don't want it to smear too much, but this arch in here, and I drew where the shadow was, even though there wasn't a big shadow. So I'm going to let the red go over that and blend it down into the stock. And my red definitely has an angle here where it angles here down below. So you might need a smaller brush for that. Thought it's interesting. I'm reading a book, Killing Sitting Bull? No, Crazy Horse, Killing Crazy Horse. And the Creek Indians used to actually paint themselves red. And that's where the term, I think, redskin came from. The upper creeks, they used to call red sticks. And the lower creeks, the creeks disliked because the lower creeks kind of liked the white man's way and were adapting to being farmers, and the upper creeks didn't like that, so they were rebelling against each other and the white man too. So it's interesting to see that history and the things that the white man did wrong and the things the Indians did to help those problems along. So here, this leaf on this one that sticks to the left has a lot more red on this orange part. So I'm going to go in there and do red on the darker leaf, the one furthest out. So this would be, oops, I want a little more red than the pink, so that didn't work. And I'm going to go across the top of here with the pink. And I think that's all the red. Well, maybe a little red on this stalk here on the outside, maybe a little further down. So see, it's actually looking pretty nice with just those colors. Are kind of pastel-y and gives you a tropical feel.
Doug, there's a little red on the top flower on the green part.
Right this part right
yeah.
here.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, and you know, if you missed it, that's okay, but I think that's a good catch and it comes across. And if you do it lightly, you can certainly cover it up with green or greenish blue if you want. So that's where I would put the pinks. And maybe, you know, you could have a touch of pink in some of these leaves if you just wanted, just a very slight amount. It helps to bring the color in. And you can do that with a fairly dry brush. Let's go with the blues next. You need just a little more time? I'm okay. You need a little more time, everybody?
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I think I need just a tad more.
We'll give you a tad more time. That's fine. And I'll drink some more water.
There you go. Always good to hydrate.
So really being an artist is part seeing. So if you can see where the colors are, you can see where the shading is, then you can paint it. And part of that is just looking at the different drawings. Now this one, I definitely made a composition where this one is going to the left and that one's going to the right, balancing it out. I like the intertwining. It makes me feel like they are hugging each other. And I put a leaf here, and notice this leaf is pointing up into here. This leaf is pointing to here. So as your eye travels down, the leaves bring you back up, the stalks bring you down, the leaves bring you back up. Makes a nice flow. There's also a nice balance of space here, here, and here. There's not any real tight spaces which your eye can get stuck in. There's one here, but it's not too bad. Could get stuck in there, but I think I'm going to paint the leaf over there, and it's just going to be that little piece there. So if these were really tight together, this gap would be very small, and it would constrict your eye. My eye still goes in there, but not as much. So how's it going, Pammer?
I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
mixing up my purple.
Yeah, and now we're going to go with the blue or a purple if you prefer. It looks a little purplish. I do have a purple, but I want it to be light. So these can be purple or blue. I think the purple's nice because it's a complementary color to the orange. So I'll take some purple over here. Let me see if I can put that where you can see it. I did it right here. And then you need just a very little bit of purple to make the white, make a light purple. If you use a lot of purple, it gets dark really quick. And watercolors like to do that. So that's why we're trying to do it slowly. And so I'm adding the purple to my white and getting a very lavender color. And I'm going to do the lighter areas with this, a very light lavender. Lavender is a good color. It sometimes represents older women. Colors have different meanings. Orange is a color that's very interesting. Asians and Latinos love that orange. It's a good color for children's toys, but Americans don't appreciate it as much. So I'm going to come in with that light lavender, very light, and go in the lighter areas of this, the little things, the little poppers that come out. And we can always go darker over them. This little scoop here is light. You can go to a smaller brush with this if you want. I think I am, just to make sure that I can get in those smaller areas. So you change the brush you're using. Pam, with your acrylic paints, you need to clean your brushes really well when you're done. With
Yeah.
with watercolors, we don't have to.
Yeah, I bought these new ones at the dollar store, so.
Okay. And the only problem with maybe dollar store stuff is they may not last as long. If ultraviolet light gets on it, you'll have to frame it with a UV protection. The really good colors are supposed to last 150 years and things like that. But you'd have to buy good paper too. This paper is very good paper that I gave you. So. Okay, I did that lavender. Now underneath the little birds' heads, there's some lavender in here. It goes to a darker blue, but I'm going to put this lavender there for now. It'll bring this lavender down. And then we can go over it with a little darker blue later on. So we'll go here. And we'll go with that lavender. And I'll bring it in here. And you know, if you make that a little streaky, it's okay. Because if you look at that bird of paradise, it seems a little streaky. Maybe that's the way the fibers of it go or whatever. So when you're painting something, you really don't want to look at it as a bird of paradise. You want to look at this as shapes. So if you were trying to draw something with fur, you wouldn't think of it as fur. You think about, well, how's fur look? It's shapes and lines and shadows. So if you actually paint this upside down, which I'm doing, you stop looking at it as much as a bird of paradise or a bird's head. You start looking at it as different shapes and how those shapes and the colors and the contrast work. So we used to do exercises where we paint things upside down or zoom way in on things and paint them. And so that way you're not thinking of them as what they are, but you're thinking of them as different shapes and where the contrast and the edges of colors are. And if you get that right, they start looking like what they're supposed to look like. So I'm going to come all the way across on this one to the tip. I'm trying to make these fairly straight lines, though we'll come back in with other colors. But I think it looks really pretty that way. You don't even need the green. You have to have green? No, you can make these any color you want. You could have made these, I don't know, could have made them all bright orange. So that was the light purple. When you're done with the light purple, or if you're using blue, you can come in with the darker purple. And definitely want to go a little lighter, and then you can always go darker. I'm going to go darker purple in the darker areas of these underneath here. Now, if these start blending too much because it's wet, you can damp it with a paper towel, dab it, or you can wait until it dries and then come back. So you don't have to paint on these when they're wet, because they kind of bleed into each other and you don't get as crisp colors. And, but you can always dab it. If you had a hair dryer, you could blow it. But if you blow it too hard with an hair dryer, the colors will smear out if they're way too wet. So you got to be careful of that. But I think these are okay. And then I'll come in here. Now, if you think this would look better with the darker color up against the edge of the leaf, in the picture right here, it's light up against the leaf. But if you squint your eyes, it's about the same value. So I'm just going to make my dark up against the leaf because I want it to show that this is further back. So even though that's not the same as the picture, I'm making it darker so that it shows contrast up against that leaf. So you can make those choices to make the composition a little better. I use the paper towel sometimes to dry the brush if it's too wet. I'm just kind of holding on to it in my hand in case I make a mistake, in case I spill, in case I make it a little bit too wet on my brush. And then I'm coming in here underneath this one. And if it doesn't flow as well as you want, you can add a little bit of water. I'm just getting near the top of my can where there's some wet on the can or the glass that you're working, and then come in here. I'm just putting dark underneath this one so it looks like a shadow. It actually has kind of a ridge in there. And I can draw that ridge because pretty good with the brush, but I don't know that it needs that ridge. Then I'm going back to my lighter because I missed this part earlier. I think that this edge right here can be darker to separate that. I think that's a pistil from the leaf that's there. The leaf is over the top actually, so I'll just fade that in. Okay, so I think those purples look pretty good. I don't like the shape of this one. So I'll come in with some lighter, shape it a little bit. And you can leave white areas. Those are highlights. So I thought after doing something mechanical, we'd do something more organic. And I think this one's maybe a little more fun than the bug. I like the bug though, you know. But you need to know both mechanical and organic things if you want to paint. So how are we? Do we need more time on anything?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, so now we can come in with the light green. And so I have to mix mine. I'm going to go with a yellow. And there's a kind of a yellowish green in my kit. I'm putting it on the green spot on the palette. If it picks up some of the green that's already there, that's all right. This one's called willow green. It's just kind of a yellow green. It's called yellow green, actually. And that's exactly what I want, but I wanted to add a little more yellow to it to lighten it up even more. So yellow and the yellow. And I'm going to go with a medium brush. Or with this, with the leaves, yeah, medium brush for the stalks, maybe a bigger brush for the leaves. And I'm going to mix those colors here. And I'm going to come across, and I think I'll do the darker part of the leaf now. And if you leave little streaks in this, and that's why this medium-sized brush is good, it looks like the streaks on the leaf anyway. So I think it's okay to leave those. My brush is rather dry, and it ends up being a little streakier. And leaving little white areas there is still good. I'll go over this vein here in the middle. If it gets a little darker, that's okay. We could come back in with some, you could try coming in with white, but that's all right. We're gonna go darker on the leaves later on anyway. So I'm leaving a little bit of the streakiness in this to make it look a little more leaf-like. Now, the streaks on the leaf, if we really look, they come from here and come along diagonally out. I'm just doing some strokes diagonally out to simulate the way it looks on the leaf. Well, or you could call this a shape rather than a leaf. And then I'm going to go with that and do the other dark side. I'll do a light wash on the yellow, but I want to go a little lighter on that. So I'm going to do the other dark side of the leaf. And I'm holding my brush pretty far out. Gives you a little more control once you get used to it. But if you really need control, you can choke up on your brush and get closer to it and get some detail there. And I'm doing some of those strokes coming out from those veins. My stalks are about the same color as that dark in the shadow area. So we can just go down the stalks. I'm letting it be a little lighter, maybe rinsing the brush just a little more. And up in here, there's some green. And down here. And if yours is not the same as mine, it's perfectly fine. Nobody's going to look at yours and say, well, that green shouldn't be there. It's a plant. They're different. They don't always have the colors in exactly the same places. So we can change up a bit. And there's a little green with, if I lighten this and just add a little water, so I get a very light wash of green. I can go over here underneath where the bird head is here, and underneath the other one, there's green. So if you do a light wash of this green, then that blue will still show through. You get kind of a bluish green, which is fine. And if the green goes down there, that's okay. And right over here. And mine is darker blue right in here. I'm going to go green, but I'll go darker blue over it. How's everything going?
Good.
Wiping it with my finger if I went too far, and that's okay. So I'm going to take probably a medium-sized round brush, and I'm going to go over the yellow, but I want just a very light. I don't want a yellow green, but I want this, well, yellowy green, but I want it to be very watered down. So when I go over this, I can maybe pull it this way along the way the veins go and just get that yellow so it's not quite so yellow. And so want to use a watery brush. That was too much here, but if I use some water, I can blend it. And so I want that to be yellow, but I want it to have a little bit of the darker green in it, so the leaf doesn't look totally yellow. And from the center out, I'm just going to darken it in just a little bit. And I'm emphasizing the little veins that come out here. And I'm going to do that with the other leaf. If you get it too dark, it's okay. Not a big deal. Leaves look different. Not always exactly the same. This one has a little highlight. I'm just going to hit it a little bit, but I think I'm going to leave this edge here lighter, maybe even darken it in a bit. If you have those gel pens, you could come in and darken certain areas too. So you can mix media. Some people mix pencil and watercolor, acrylic and watercolor. We're really pretty far done with this, except for maybe doing the shadows on the stalks. There's shadows here, and if you look where they overlap, I put a shadow in it. And that shadow would be kind of rounded like the stalk. Mine's not as rounded as it would be, but it'd be rounded in there. So I'm going to go in with the darker green and do those shadows with a small or medium-sized round brush. And the shadows I put on the same side, they were not on the same side in my drawing because I'm in the Photoshop because I flipped them around. And so I had to put the shadows in with the burn tool. So nice to know Photoshop sometimes. And so I'm going to take a darker green and I'll do the shadows in here, in here, down that edge. I think my green needs to be darker, so I'll go with a different green. I have a yellow green and I have a green. Just add the green here. It might be too dark, so mix some of the yellow green and the green. I always want to go light And then you can always go darker after that.
That really makes it pop.
Yeah, and that's why I like those shadows that make things rounded. They also make things stick out because where there's high contrast, it tends to come forward. And that's the little touch that watercolor. I like watercolors when they have those high contrast edges, and watercolor is good at that. So here, if I come down here, now, if you do it lightly at first and then come back and darken it, that's fine. This has a little shadow here and a little shadow there. And that rounds it. The edge on the other side could have maybe a yellowish green here. It's a slightly darker to make it rounder, but not as dark a shadow as something else, as the other side. The edge of the leaf being yellow, I think is too light for me. I'm just gonna come in with the little dabs and break it up just a little bit, like it's shadows from the bird heads above.
And the difference in the intensity of the shadow on either side of the stalk, is that because we're also indicating where the light is coming
The
from?
sun is coming from. When you're doing your paintings, you can decide where the sun is coming from. So if my sun is here, then it's giving me darker shadows on this side. I'm getting a shadow on the other side just because they're rounded, but the sun is
Right.
making it darker on that side. You can decide, if you decided at the beginning of this drawing your sun wanted to be over here, then your shadow would be on the other side. So yeah, it's
Right,
the
okay.
position of the shadow. Now, when I took these pictures, the sun were in a certain place, but when I flipped this bird of paradise and bent it more to make it put the shadows on the other side, so I had to actually go in and make shadows in Photoshop. There's a burn tool and you can burn where the edges are. But I'm really, with this one, I'm thinking that as I'm painting this, I want this other back side, the one on this side, to be the darker of the shadows. So it indicates the direction of the sun. The darker. Now notice this stalk kind of drops off. I'm just going to make it a little wider because I think that makes the stalk look more realistic. Cleaning my brush, getting a little bit of water in it.
Okay, and so then if, like, let's say if the sun is in the, what is to me the like left hand top corner,
Here,
right, of the paper, other side.
this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the shadows would be here. There might even be a shadow underneath this, which there is.
Right, but like
Here.
the further down and like diagonal that it would get,
Then the
we would
shadows would be on
experience the shadows getting like more intense.
they would get maybe more intense, but also the angle would be different.
Okay.
So there might be shadows on the back of these leaves and more on the back of here. Generally, if you're doing this from a picture or you took a picture, then you can look and see where the shadows actually are. If you're trying to decide how to do the shadows on your own, then it's a little trickier. Just takes a little practice.
Okay.
If these leaves, if there's a shadow, it would be on this edge of this vein, because that vein sticks up. And if I do that, I get a little bit of a shadow coming there. And probably this edge of the leaf, since it's this one in the shadow, would be darker. But I want to leave it lighter just so it gives me some contrast between the stalk. Notice I'm darkening it right in here, just so that stalk pops out a little more. Is that realistic? It's pretty dark in the picture, but even if it wasn't, if I darkened it, it would make the stalk stick out. So my goal is to make things more visually so you can see them. And then I'm going to take more of that dark. We're at 10:56. Do we need to go soon? We're really pretty much done. And darken some of these other parts of these leaves. Just to make things pop a little more. And I think this leaf is too yellow, so I'm just gonna dilute my brush. Come back in with some green over the top of it and darken it just lightly. And so if you had a green gel pen, you could come in certain areas and darken it, get some detail in there. But I think this is looking actually very good, especially if you look at it from a distance. A little more of that green in here. Put the shadow underneath the birds' heads. And this one here was a darker blue, actually. So go with the purple and a little green. Go right in here. It almost worked, just a little darker than I'd like. And I went over the line, so I'm just going to shape this a little bigger. And then come in with the green. And you can turn your palette too. Make this come out here. Blend it in. That's too dark, I think. It's working, but it's too dark. I'll just dab it. And that mutes it a little bit. And that's a little better. If I had to, I could rub it with water. But I think that actually made it work. Rub it with a little water and dab it again. There, I think that's better. A little bit of a shadow under here, probably. And we're really pretty much done.
Looks good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It does.
fun.
Can we see yours, Boo?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. It's so
That's beautiful.
It's very nice.
I love how pastel-y it looks. That's like right up my alley. I like it.
Very nice. Very nice. So just, maybe coming in and cleaning it up. Once you erase the lines, it certainly makes it look even nicer. And I'm just going to go with a little bit of a purpley color under here. The green, just darkening this. I'm trying to make it balance the other side where it's fairly dark. I'll make this darker. and make it balance the other side. A little bit of purpley in there. Purpley, where's the purpley? There. So yeah,
Beautiful.
That's
kind of
nice.
fun. I actually think I like Holly's better.
I like Holly's better too.
Hey,
I like
hey,
yours
don't agree with me. But you can come in with some whites and clean it up. Really, with watercolor, most purists don't like using whites. But I think the white helps when you want little highlights and areas to pop. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. And we'll figure out
Thank you.
something. Do you have a suggestion for what you want to paint next week?
Hmm.
Bunnies.
Bunnies could be fun.
Bunnies
We could
could
do
be
it.
fun.
We could do a Christmas thing. What is next week? It's a
Yes. How about a snowman?
snowman or a
That's too
Santa
white.
snowman. Yeah, we could do a snowman.
Or come up with a Christmas composition of things.
Yeah, maybe a snowman and a wreath or something.
A
Ooh,
stocking.
wreath could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a red door with a wreath.
I like that idea a lot. Yeah. I always think of a red door with a wreath on it, even though I don't have a red door.
Pine cones. Pam, if you want to make a wreath, I have that star pine. I need to trim some branches off it. Anyway, it would make a great wreath.
That would be nice, except, well, yeah, it'd be nice.
You can put it on your door.
I don't know that I have time to make anything right now. It's too busy of a time right now.
All right, no problem. Somebody would just have to make you one, I guess.
Well, why not you?
I'm saying no promises. It's not. I'm busy too. I have painting lessons. I have 3D lessons. I have trumpet lessons.
I work full time.
Well, yeah, rub it in.
Yeah, but you got more fun things to do with your time than I do.
Well, I'm glad to have fun things. Yes. We'd have to decide whether the wreath is a fun thing.
It depends on what you put in the wreath. You know, you can have little red
Bunnies.
berries. You
Don't
can
we
have
have bunnies?
bows.
You
You
don't
could
want, you don't want bunnies?
But that's for Easter.
I think we should mix
Christmas bunnies.
Christmas bunnies. Yeah.
I would be down to do bunnies at some point.
Bunnies would be fun, yeah. I think
We
they-
could even send you a picture of Furiosa. We could.
We could, and we could do bunnies at Easter.
Mhm.
That's
All
why
right. We're all done for the day. Any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Make sure if you're doing acrylics to clean your brushes really well. Make sure that if you're doing watercolor, you want to clean your brushes too, because the next time you use it, if there's paint in there, it's going to change your color. So,
Can you hold yours right side up, Uncle Doug?
right side up.
Cool.
I like this shadow right here, the one that curls underneath that defines this stalk. Because if
Mhm.
it's curled, then it's shaped. Shadows follow the contours of things. And so once you crop this and put it in a frame, it'll be very nice. I put
Yeah.
mine pretty far down, so I had room to put it in a frame.
Right.
Yeah, so. All right, everybody, goodbye. Thank you very much. I'm Douglas Mooney signing out.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
It was so
Bye,
fun to have you
Pam.
on the
Bye.
call.
What's
Oh,
that?
it's nice
absolutely.
seeing everybody. Maybe next time I'll figure out my camera.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye,
Okay.
Doug. Bye, Kim.
Bye-bye.